Doom Kings arguably suffer the most from single-entity power creep in Total War Warhammer 3, as a good number of their big construct monsters are not any good. The Bone Giants are probably the best, I would say, given that their damage is actually pretty solid, and what I mean by that is their missile damage, right? They've got some explosive missile damage, 200 extra bonus versus large, good amount of base armor piercing damage as well at 360, so yeah, I mean, it's a very hard-hitting unit for sure, especially with that bonus versus large, you know, pushing it well over, what, 500? 600 even. Yeah, it's very impressive stuff, and their accuracy can leave a little bit to be desired sometimes, but if they hit their shots, they can definitely deal very effective damage, unlike, say, the Tomb Scorpion in melee. But let's take a look at the rest of the build here from Pigman. He's got Aran the Black with some Ushabti great bows here, including Chosen the Gods, Skeleton Warriors, Skeleton Spears, in a nice triangle that would make any Skaven commander blush. Got some Ushabtis here as well. Melee Ushabti. Rider Rohan's going to be the opponent, so got two friends of the channel, regular submitters, I would say. Yeah, Rider Rohan coming in with the Ice Witch, Tempest, Winged Lancers, and some Kislev Warriors supported by Armored Kossars. He's got the Patriarch, Little Grom, double Little Grom, Patriarch with his newly removed item. Now actually has to take his active healing ability, which has already been used once to try and sustain those Little Groms, but nice Hawks of Misha from the Ice Witch to try and clear out some of this chaff. It's a nice wide area of effect, non-AP Vortex, and then the Winged Lancers. Very interesting and good micro, too, for Rider Rohan to just kind of feint with all of the cavalry and charge them into one place. Now, granted, they're going to do pretty good damage, but the summon from Aran the Black here does block quite a few of them in as well, so they're going to suffer somewhat in this engagement, but I mean, Hawks of Misha doesn't have that long of a cooldown. They are setting up another beautiful blob potentially for it, so let's keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, let's also keep an eye on the targeting for the Tomb Kings. One Bone Giant firing away at Little Groms there in the distance. Yeah, you can see actually both the Bone Giants there. Yeah, landing some hits. This one's now getting tangled up in melee a little bit there as Rider Rohan tries to occupy it, but the Bone Giant's trading very effectively, just straight up beating Little Grom in an artillery duel. That's even with some gunfire support up close from the Armored Kossars. I think, yeah, I'd be curious to just do a clean 1v1 test with a bunch of these to see if this is a consistent result or if this is perhaps due to some focus here, 2v1, or some other factor, I'm not sure. But another devastating Hawks of Misha goes off here in the front line. That is just going to savage skeleton lines here. Absolutely shred many of their units. Does some friendly damage on Kislev as well, no doubt. But yeah, that was pretty devastating. A lot of the skeleton support infantry just immediately evaporates, and Shabtis are forced to fight against Kislev Warriors, which is not ideal. They're definitely units which are kind of designed to kill each other in a way, so it'll be a pretty bloody fight, but Kislev Warriors are going to be trading fairly cost-effectively here, as long as they're not having to fight too many skeletons, which is why kind of the chaff clearing from Rider Rohan makes a lot of sense. That said, the Ice Witch is being Spirit Leeched down by Aran, and given that he took Lord of Tempest, that does mean there's no Lord Frost, Death Frost, right? Or, you know, other single-entity kind of killing power here with the Little Groms off the field in terms of things that can threaten the Bone Giants and Aran the Black. There are some things, certainly the Kislev Warriors in us around here, like against this Bone Giant, are able to drag it down. Probably still got some decent value in that artillery duel, notwithstanding, but Aran continuing to have these summons is going to be a problem for the Kislev Warriors, as they'll just keep fighting those skeleton bodies, which trade much more cost-effectively into them. Kislev Warriors are a really nice generalist unit. Some people think they're a little bit too strong. I would say you could put them up to 525 and it would probably be fine, but 550 starts to be a lot. I mean, it's equal to, what, Empire Halberds are 550, right? But I don't know. Are they only 525? As an Empire player, you'd think I would know, but off the top of my head, I can't remember right now. Anyway, Saliak's lullaby here from the Patriarch, healing a bunch of units, trying to sustain this Kislev force here in the center. Definitely having some leadership issues, as Winged Lancers and Kislev Warriors attempt to pin and kill Aran. But yeah, the one Bone Giant continuing to still be a huge problem, and the skeletons that are remaining, again, trading very cost effectively causing those Kislev warriors to have some problems. We'll see, continuing to close in as they get some units rallying back. And Armored Cossars using up the last of their ammunitions. They're probably going to move in melee here and try and clean up some of these skeleton warriors, perhaps. We'll see, but the loss of the ice switch is pretty critical here as the Bone Giant takes another shot. Big hit there, down below 1,000 HP, 628. And the Bone Giant, as you can see, sometimes will continue firing in melee. So even though it's taking constant damage here, it's still going to be doing damage. Oof, and getting another hit on the ice switch there, almost enough to finish her off. That's probably going to finish her leadership at the very least. So even though the Bone Giant's likely to die within the next short while as well against Kislev warriors, getting rid of Kislev leadership is very important. Of course, might not end up mattering if everything else just crumbles away, and a lot of what's left of the Tomb Kings is struggling right now. The Bone Giant's managing to not crumble, but pretty much everything on this whole side of the battlefield is just crumbling away. Maybe not. Those Shopti seem to rally their leadership together momentarily. But Kislev warriors, by our blood, will help one time. But then they are relatively weak to terror. I mean, they're not immune to psychology by any means. They've got decent leadership. They're not, like, elite units, right? They're definitely low-tier units. So they're going to be vulnerable to the terror of the Bone Giant here, and now with Spirit Leech working down the Patriarch, he's probably on a limited amount of time. Not to mention, Patriarch as a duelist is not really up to snuff. Arcan is just straight up better in every way. So, yeah, 2v1, this is going to go pretty poorly, especially as the Patriarch immediately tries to nope out of that engagement. Sweep around the side, just trying to avoid Arcan as much as he can. Ooh, does get a little charge in there on the Bone Giant, but a beautiful interrupt by Pigman, perfectly timed to intercept those Kislev warriors on the summon. So strong. As I discussed recently with the Ragnarok Queen, summons are just insane. So having a heroic ability give you extra summons, especially for a faction that would normally lack it. One of the reasons why Arcan's so meta, also because Lord Death is really strong. Those two things, plus his own quite decent stats, means he is just a menace. An absolute menace. Has been pretty much since Tomb Kings came out. He's been meta, to be honest. I don't think Cetra... I mean, arguably in certain matchups, you could say Cetra's been better at certain times, but for the most part, I would say as a general rule, you can take Arcan and pretty much be safe in most matchups in terms of your Lord selection. Showing his power here as he's able to barely keep this Bone Giant alive. More Skeleton Warriors being summoned in, and without the summons, he'd definitely be screwed here against the Kislev warriors, right, if he just had to fight in a straight-up fight. But because of the leadership situation, and I think maybe one more summon left, 2 more summons left, actually, wow. So, yeah, I guess he could grind this out and get that next summon if he can survive long enough in melee, which certainly he can. Bone Giant is crumbling. Will it die? Ooh, I don't know, actually. If the Bone Giant goes here and there's no terror for the Kislev warriors, which it does, actually kills a couple of them as it falls there. Takes one last shot at the Patriarch, who is likely to not come back. So it's pretty much just down to, can Arcan kill the rest of these Kislev bros? And he's going to get a cheeky little Spirit Leech just to try and finish off a few of their unit models. And yeah, leadership not looking great. This one unit of Armored Cossars is doing okay, but they're obviously not anti-large. They're relatively low weapon strength. Non-AP damage is not going to be great. And then there's the summons, of course. And a unit like these Armored Cossars, because they're not going to do a lot of damage, is really just going to recharge the summons so that Arcan can get the third one, potentially. So we'll fast forward through this endgame, as it's pretty clear the Tomb Kings have the advantage here and are going to press it and win there. Very close game, have to say. Quite back and forth. A lot of nice plays on both sides, but ultimately Pigman able to take home the win there on the back of Arcan. Bone Giants also getting some really nice value, and even the one that was shut down, you know, relatively midway through the fight, still just trading clean against those Little Groms. Man, sad day for Little Grom. Just not effective trading in this matchup, it seems, against the Bone Giants, but it's something we all learned today. I'm sure Rider of Rohan also painfully learned that lesson from this battle, but yeah, Melee Shopti also traded pretty well. I was kind of surprised given the amount of Kislev warriors, which let's talk about them in a second. Yeah, they actually traded pretty cost effectively, all things considered. Of course, the Skeleton Warriors, a few of the chaff performing quite nicely in terms of value, and then we don't get to see the value of the summons from Arcan, unfortunately, but I would imagine even if each summon gets, like, you know, 200 to 300 value, he got, what, like 4 of them? So it's an extra 800 to 1,000 value, potentially, or more, depending on how much damage they got, or less. But tactically, value is hard to assess. It is very, very good. That said, on Kislev's side here, the value, I mean, those Kislev warriors, man, they just trade amazing into the construct in large armored units, which is the value of this army, obviously. So yeah, 1,000 damage value, 1,000 there, 1,100. Pretty good across the board. Armored Kossars also definitely respectable, no slouches. But it's an interesting one. I can't admit to playing this matchup very much, but yeah, it's the Bone Giants versus the Little Groms is an interesting trade. Just Little Groms seem to just lose that clearly, so I definitely would just cut them and go with more of a rush-oriented build, and I think Kislev would have a pretty good time. I do respect Ryder Rohan also for not just going for a degenerate bear blob, which might have actually done really well here. But I guess the degenerate bear blob is probably less degenerate now that the Patriarch's item has been taken away. I don't know. I haven't really, again, tried it myself since then. But that's it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.